You look great.
Thank you.
You feel great.
Think so.
Brought the tissues.
Great. Hopefully we won't need them.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say right now, I'm just gonna keep one in my lap. I'm just kidding.
Don't go there.
All right. Well, we're going. It's on. New setup, new podcast, new studio, not new friendship. No. We actually should have done the math.
13 years.
Yeah. Go ahead and pull the mic up even closer to you.
Okay.
Or if you need to slide the whole thing back, like literally, slide it all the way back so it's right under your face. It'll be so obnoxiously like close to you, but see how close it is to me?
Okay.
Does that feel better? Bring it even a little bit closer. Dun, 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 and then back. Yep, there it is. Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. All
Cool.
up in your business.
All up in my business.
Like how I'm going to be in this interview style podcast episode.
Okay, awesome. I'm
Totally
ready.
kidding. You guys, I'm here with the one and only Katie Klaiber. Now, Katie is a wonderful friend of mine, and I am very excited that she's on the podcast today, on the Love That For You podcast today, because honestly, Katie, like you are top of the list anyway, just to come on this podcast, because the whole concept of why I wanted to separate from Queen City Connect, because I love the work that Queen City Connect is doing, but I really wanted there to be another place where people from all over could just come and share their stories, because I love stories and I love hearing how people got to where they are and how we can encourage them and inspire them. And honestly, more than that, I know we're going to be encouraged and inspired by you today. So I'm just grateful that you're here. And I'm going to stop talking in just a second, but I could literally talk all day long. For those listening or watching, Katie and I have been talking all morning, and we're like, we just have to go to the studio and hit record, because now we're like short on time to actually record. But we're here. We have lots to talk about. There are many reasons why I have Katie on the podcast today, and we're going to try to talk through all of those. Yeah.
We can do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So Katie has had a lot of involvement with the Love That For You podcast, as we will talk through when we hear a little bit more of her story. So I'm going to stop there. Katie, would you just tell us, who are you? Like, where did you come from? Where did you grow up? What was kind of the environment you grew up in? And then we'll get to, honestly, probably the most fun part of like how we met, and we'll share some stories about that.
That sounds great. So, first of all, thank you for that very kind introduction. I am honored to be on the new podcast, as seen by the logo if you're watching on YouTube. So thank you, Morgan, for having me, and I'm excited to share my story as well as listen to everybody else's story that you will be featuring on this new podcast. So, who am I? My name is Katie, and I live in upstate South Carolina right now, but I grew up the majority of my life in the state of New Hampshire, and I would probably still consider it home. So New Hampshire is just beautiful, and I was there for, like I said, probably 25 plus years, minus a few for college that were down here as well. So I've been in upstate South Carolina for about 7 years now. And it's beautiful, and I do love being close to the North Carolina mountains. It's nice being back close to you again. And yeah, just having a good time. I'm back close with family. I've got a brother in Atlanta, and my parents also live in the small town in upstate South Carolina as well. So yeah, good to be near friends and family.
We both went through seasons of living in different states that our family was in, and I can remember back on that and how difficult it was for, I think, us both. Like, we loved where we were, we loved our friends, we loved the season of life, but it's difficult for you, especially being down here in Greenville. Your parents are up in New Hampshire. Like, that's a long distance, that's like go home for Thanksgiving type of deal. So I'm glad that y'all are near each other. I love being back with family, so I can.
Family's everything.
Yeah, I love that. So yeah, grew up in New Hampshire. So you love like winter and snow and all the things.
Yes.
Can I just say what Katie does not like? That's insane, because she lived in New England. Seafood. Katie
true.
Doesn't like seafood.
That is true. Yep.
My mind is blown, because seafood here is fine, but it's not honestly great. But if you go up to Maine, New Hampshire, anywhere up Massachusetts, Boston, like fantastic lobster bisque. Fantastic, just everything seafood. And our friend Katie here is just doing a disservice to the
Okay,
Northeast.
well, let's tell them how we met on my turf in New England.
That is true. We did meet on her turf.
And I may not like seafood, but we have some great tourist destinations,
Yeah.
and we got to do some pretty cool things up in New England and Boston. So
Yeah.
tell them about that.
Yeah, 100%. So in 2010, also where are we at? Okay, we got time. In 2010, so I grew up here in Charlotte. Most of y'all know that. I grew up going to a small Christian camp called the Wilds in Brevard, North Carolina, and I loved being a camper. I loved going to camp. I loved everything about it. I wanted to work at a camp. I wanted to, at that point in my life, just spend the rest of my life working at a camp, like having fun, being with friends, getting dirty and muddy, putting on face paint, obviously growing our faith, like the most important part, but just that like collaborative community of fun. As an Enneagram 7, we're not shocked. I loved camp, so I wanted to work at camp. So I wanted to apply to work at that same camp that I had attended so long as a camper. But the summers were so long, and when I graduated high school, I didn't want to be away my last summer, the whole summer before going to college, because that's like a whole transition. Like that's just a lot going to college. And for me, I very much was a homebody, so like it was just a lot to prep and go to college. So I found that the Wilds had a smaller like camp plant, basically. They had a couple at the time, but there was one in particular that was brand new called the Wilds of New England. And so it was the same camp concept. The director actually of the Brevard camp went up and became the director of the New England camp. And same camp concept, but because it was in the north, because it was new, they were doing, I think at that time, it was like a 7-week summer. So it was a lot shorter. Yeah, 6 or 7 weeks. It started... Yeah, I think it started like first or second week of July and then went to like first or second week of August. So maybe even 5 or 6 weeks. But it was going to be a similar concept, but a shorter amount of time that felt better to me. So I don't even think I applied. I think it was, I had family and friends who worked. Yeah, whatever. And I actually, you know what? I did apply. This is coming back to me. I did apply because I got a letter saying no. I got a rejection letter saying, sorry, all of our spots are filled for working at camp. And I remember being bummed, but I wasn't I was bummed because I got a no, and like, I don't like to be told no. But I also was like, I mean, I don't know if I've ever been to New Hampshire, so I guess it's fine. But then I got a phone call about 2 weeks before camp started, from just a sweet connection, a family member who works at the camp. I'm making this way too long. And anyway, I end up working at the Wilds of New England, and they said, we have one spot available. It's a dishwasher position. Do you want to come be a dishwasher at this camp? And I, so naive and was just like ready for an adventure, was like, yeah, I'll do that. So I show up literally, if you're watching this, Cannon is just loving on Katie. He loves the new setup in here in the studio. So I go to camp to be a dishwasher, and one of the first people I meet there is Katie, because Katie is my co-dishwasher. There's 2 of us. Katie was the other one. And so we worked a summer at the Wilds of New England and being dishwashers, and we scrubbed those sheet pans like there was no tomorrow.
Yep. We drank iced tea out of the pitchers in a 90-degree kitchen. We had a dishwasher
named
Hobart,
which
is actually a brand, but I don't think realized that at the time.
We
would try to beat the dishwasher, and
he was monogrammed.
Race up the hill and back and try to beat a dishwashing cycle. It was good times, simple times.
Yeah.
We also lived in a cozy little cabin that used to be a chicken coop. So
it was not a cabin. It was an actual chicken coop that they gutted and put in 2 wooden beds, 2 twin beds, and said, hey, Morgan and Katie, no, you've never met, but we're going to like parent trap this whole situation and stick you in this tiny literal chicken coop. But you know what? We became besties. We ended up working at camp for several years after that together.
And we had Morgan's sweet mom getting, towels from Walmart and stuffing it in all the holes so we wouldn't have spiders and mice. But
there were holes in the wall of the chicken coop.
That summer was bonding. And here we are almost 13 years later, I think, and we're still friends.
Yeah, it's an experience that you like say this like it's not, you would not be able to have that experience as a 35-year-old woman. Like you just can't. Like
No.
you've got to be 19. You don't really know
I
who
hope
you
not.
are as a person. You're ready for a challenge. You want to meet new people. You're okay to sleep outside and get dirty. Like that was that time of life. So we really bonded over that. That was awesome.
Yes.
And then we did go to the same college. So that was the summer before I went to college. So that was just like really kind of the Lord too, to allow us to meet, because then I met a few other girls who also worked at the camp who lived up in New England, that I'm now just very good friends with and have like been in weddings and stuff. It's so cool just how that's all worked out. But then when I went to college, I already now had friends that I was able to like go through that first year of college with as a freshman. So that was awesome. Oh, those were the days. So
Good
that was really
times.
fun. I mean, we could talk for hours
Okay.
just having camp episodes, and I don't know if our listeners would want that, but I would thoroughly enjoy it. But maybe on a follow-up episode we can do a deep dive into camp. But so we did camp and then worked at college together, and then I went the education route. Tell us a little bit about the route you went, and then from there.
Yeah. So I was kind of I've always loved being creative. I was very much your craft kid. If there was a craft kit about it, whether it was beading, latch hook rugs, clay, painting, drawing, knitting, crocheting, if there was something creative to do, I have done it as a kid. So when I was thinking, what am I going to go to college for? It was kind of not the turn of the century, but laptops and everything was so fresh at that time. I was on yearbook staff in high school. I found it
Classic.
interesting. I liked the layout software, which jokes on that. If you were to think back about layout software in 2008, it was rough, man.
Children with Canva today, you have no idea.
You have no idea. And I
That
get
makes it
told
sound so
that
old.
from my managers at work that say I have no idea of
Yeah.
what,
And you probably didn't, because we
Yeah.
have
craft design
pros
without
and
a
cons.
computer, like
Figure it out.
whole new world. Anyway, so I was seeing a lot of stores and storefronts and brochures out and about, and I'll just call it what it is. They were not well done. And so I was, how can I make the world a more beautiful place? And I thought I could do it, one logo, one new brand, one new church brochure at a time. So I jumped into it with 2 feet, and I love it. And I've been out of school, 12 years or whatever, 10 years.
We don't need to talk about
broadcast
that.
it. But I've been designing ever since, and I absolutely love it. So
Yeah, I love that you said you like you wanted to make a world a more beautiful place. Like, I can start crying now, because like you have 100% done that, like with graphic design, but also just your life. So now fast forward, you've worked at a great company doing a lot of graphic design work, but you also will do stuff for friends and family, and you've done a
Yeah.
lot of like church work and just like the graphic design behind all that.
I've had a pretty great corporate job over the last 7 or 8 years. I've been at the same company. Really love it. I've had to take a break recently, which we'll discuss in a few minutes. But along the side, over the last 10 years, I've loved doing a lot of graphic design for churches and a lot of startup businesses. Those are kind of my side gigs that I like to do, just freelance on the side. And there's some really creative opportunities to do in the freelancing as well. So I like to do both.
Yeah. It's great that you have the opportunity to like have the job and then take other gigs and stuff too. Like I kind of view that similarly with photography. It's like I don't really have that one niche or niche, whatever. Like I just like serving people. So if I can serve however I can do that. So I think you do that.
And there's seasons in our work, right? You might be busy with, seasons of weddings or seasons of graduations. There's seasons of design as well. And there might be, a year where I can't take any side projects. I just can't.
But what a blessing for you to be able to say no if you need to.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's great.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Katie. Share with us as much as you want, just kind of like at this point. If you follow me on Instagram, you've probably seen like I've shared about Katie and just the like health journey and the trial that she has gone through over the past several months, and where we're at today. And so you've probably kind of heard that on socials, but there's updates, and I'd love for Katie just to for you to share your story, however much or little that you want to share with us, just what's been going on with you in your life the past year-ish, couple years.
year. Yeah. Thank you. And I already told Morgan that if we talked about this, I would try not to cry. So,
But
if
all
you,
feelings and emotions are welcome here, and we
yep,
have plenty of tissues, so we are
yes,
prepared.
yes, but we may make it through.
Yeah.
But so almost a year ago, it was Halloween of 2022. So it was October 30th. The beginning of October, I had just started not feeling well. So I was even second shooting some weddings with Morgan, and there was just a few weddings. One I had to completely cancel, and one I left early because I was just getting these terrible migraines. So I had a bout of COVID early October. And so then, as these migraines just kept intensifying, and I was finding myself having to go out to my car at lunch and take a nap during my lunch break at work because I couldn't make it through the day. And then the migraines kept coming worse, worse, and worse. I just kept blaming it on, oh, it's just COVID fatigue. It's just COVID fatigue. You just had COVID. You're fine. And then that all accumulated on October 30th with passing out and getting sick. Thankfully, I was at my parents' house and we went to the ER and they did a CT scan and immediately saw that I had a significantly sized mass on my brain. I should have looked up the measurements, but I think it was roughly a 2-inch by 2-inch mass. And they initially thought that I was at risk to have an aneurysm right away. So they quickly got me on steroids and rushed me from that location's ER to the neuro ICU at our local hospital, where they did follow-up tests and obviously saw it was a tumor and it needed to be removed ASAP. So, as you can imagine, the past 9 months have been quite the journey. So just to follow that up, I did have surgery November 11th, and they estimated they got about 90% of it. And then I followed that up with oral chemo and 6 weeks of daily radiation. They refer to those as like the big three in the standard of care medical world. So that is kind of the start of my journey. I'll let you interject with anything, or I can keep
Yeah.
going.
No, keep going. I'm just like listening to you tell it back. Like I'm remembering all these things, but it's like just bringing back like being there in those moments of like when you're texting me and everything of like they found
Yeah.
this, we're going to
Yep.
do surgery. And then yeah, keep going because it was shortly after that that like you went and got like additional tests done to see like okay, is this cancerous or is it, what is this?
Yeah. So there was a week in between finding out I had a tumor and having surgery because thankfully the steroids worked and they stabilized all the swelling, which was causing the intense pain.
Mm.
So I was just on steroids for a week. I was able to go home with my parents. I moved back home with them for the time being.
Which is like a huge blessing because at this
Yes,
point
huge
you
blessing.
lived like 5-10 minutes away from them.
Yes,
So
yep.
that was
They were able
great
to
that you
care
could
for me.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I shout out to my parents. I wouldn't have been able to go through this a year without them. So,
Yeah.
but where was I? Yeah, so the way my veins were, we actually went into the surgery being told it was probably benign. All the doctors that had looked at it told us there's a really good chance it's not cancerous. So
Mm.
I'll be honest, and there was so many emotions going in that week.
Yeah.
I just had to focus on one day at a time. And so much of this journey is one day at a time. And that goes into one of the verses, which I'll share later. Well, I'll share it now. Do not worry about tomorrow in Matthew 6. And it will take care of itself. And, God is talking about, Jesus is literally teaching, don't worry about the sparrows. God takes care of the birds. He takes care of the flowers that are here today and gone tomorrow, and they are clothed more beautiful than the richest kings. How much more is God going to care for you than the birds of the air and the flowers of the field? And then he says, don't worry about tomorrow because tomorrow's going to worry about itself. So that is one of the biggest lessons I'm learning is just trust God. And yeah, I got to focus one day at a time.
Yeah.
I got to beat this. If I'm going to beat this thing, it's going to be one day at a time. So bring that back
Yeah.
to surgery I was just focused on we got to have surgery.
Yeah.
This thing's got to come out.
Yep.
It didn't matter yet if I knew it was cancerous or not.
The next step is surgery.
The next step is
Yeah.
surgery. So we get it out. I found out later that they told my parents mid-surgery that he knew the minute he looked at the cells in the middle of surgery, he knew it was cancerous. And he told my brother, my mom, and my dad that it looked very aggressive. I didn't find this all out till later. But so, I mean, we had to sit with that. So we were told it was very, very aggressive. I go home. I heal from surgery. I'm going to say like a champ. Maybe that sounds prideful, but I was home in 48 hours.
That's insane.
40 staples in my head. And I'm just so grateful. So many God things happened that time period. I had a coworker's small group leader was a surgical assistant in my surgery. I found out that my neighbor is an ex-neurosurgeon who has done surgery with the neurosurgeon who did my surgery. Just all of these things that like I knew God was with me every step of the way. I'm getting distracted, Morgan.
No, you're doing great. I mean, I have so many like tangents and questions that we can go on too, but I guess at this point it's like talk about your faith in this moment, because at this point of like feeling sick, finding out you have this thing in your brain and now it needs to come out, and oh, by the way, it's cancer. Like, what is your faith doing? Like, is your faith shaky? Like, and any answer you give is the right answer because it's you and it's your story. But like, is your faith shaky? Are you asking God why? Are you contemplating if God exists in this moment? Or is it making you talk to God more? Like, what was happening in your faith, like in those moments?
I think in the really hard moments, I feel peace that I've never felt before. And so, if anything, it's hard to question this overwhelming sense of peace that there is no way I could have it if Christ wasn't with me, showing me what I was supposed to be doing next and just affirming that he's there.
Yeah.
Because I know that this might not seem good. Even mostly in those early on days, it definitely didn't feel good. Nothing seemed good. But I am seeing the good of it. He is changing me for the better. I am depending on him more. I see what is more important in life. I am forever changed because of this. And, you know, some people will even go as far to say that cancer is a gift. I don't know if I'm there yet, but like I see that mindset more than ever. Is I have deeper empathy for others and what they go through.
Yeah.
I understand the Bible differently because I'm viewing it through a different lens. Overall, I think I'm just grateful and thankful.
And even the answer you're giving at this point is not even because of a result. Like, that is just you in this moment. Like, we haven't even talked about where you're at now in your cancer journey. But like, I think everything you said is beautiful. And like, we can accept the fact that cancer itself is a terrible thing because we live in a broken world and it's awful and tragic and we hate it. But we believe God is a good and redeeming God, and he can use broken things and he can restore. And that doesn't even mean healing. It just means like an inward restore. Like, it can mean any aspect of restoration, you know?
Yeah.
So the thought that I'm immediately thinking of is for anyone listening right now and they are thinking, okay, Katie is battling a brain tumor and cancer, and she has this peace. And maybe someone's thinking like, I've not navigated that. Like, I'm just trying to grow my business. I'm just trying to be a mom. I'm just trying to be a supportive wife. Like, I am not going through a cancer story, but like my faith is shaky. How can she have peace going through cancer? And my faith is shaky, but like I'm on all measures, quote unquote, okay. Like, what would you like? How are you having that peace? What is something that you could tell like that person who's like, how am I living okay, but my faith is shaky? Like, where does that peace come from?
Well, it absolutely comes from God and from trusting in his plan. And I think so you asked, did I question God? I don't know if I questioned him, but there's this line that I kept coming to is I had to be okay with I was going to be healed and his plan is good, but I had to come to the realization that his plan of healing and my vision of good might not be his vision of good. Does that make sense? So I am hoping and I'm praying big prayers, and my prayer is complete healing, that I never have to deal with reoccurrences, which is well known with a glioblastoma.
I don't know if you ever actually said the diagnosis.
I don't know if we haven't gotten that far yet, and I know we're running out of time already.
No,
probably.
You're good.
But just to finish up the one question is just who I'm focused on is Christ, and knowing why I'm here on earth, and it is to glorify him, and I can do that by going through cancer, and I believe he is being glorified in this journey, and it is hard. It is hard. But yeah.
Here, I'm going first.
I was fine until you started tearing up. So I would to you moms, most of my friends are in the mom years. And then a lot of us single people out here are trying to grow our businesses or get that promotion or buy that house. And let me tell you that me not being able to do a lot of those things in this stage is tough. And so we could go on, journeys of emotions through cancer. And grief and grieving the life I had and the life I wanted is something that I've dealt with. But I just want to say that to you moms and you business owners, like, focus on what really matters, and that is people. It all comes down to all of this that we're kind of bouncing around. I'll be honest, I know I'm all over the place.
No, you're not. You're great.
It comes back to people. Who's your community? That's all that matters, is glorifying God in my faith and in how I walk this. And just like I said, he's just been with me each step of the way, and then spending time with the people I love. And I'm so thankful that I seem to have friends in every state, and I am so thankful that God knit together my community to support me through this, because he knew I was going to need that. He knew I was going to need my friends from camp. He knew I was going to need my friends from college. He knew I was going to need my best friends from high school that are still my besties. And he knew I was going to need my parents, who lived 9 minutes down the road and dropped everything to support me and to research how to heal this cancer that the world says is uncurable. But we know all things are possible with God. So
yeah, well, sorry for being the first to get emotional. I just, like, listening to you, you have, like, I have watched you handle this so strong in your faith, and I don't even feel like you've not had to be strong in your faith, but, like, watching you take this back to the Lord, or, like, when you give your updates on Facebook, it all points back to, like, all glory to God. Like, he is in control of my life. And, like, that, Katie, is so, like, that's not built on just a momentary feeling. Like, I know that peace comes because you've had a strong relationship with the Lord for a long time, so that when trouble comes, you're like, why would I get mad at God? He's my best friend. Like, he's the one who's been with me through everything. I'm not about to blame him now, you know? And I think that that's even like an encouragement to us of, like, walk with the Lord today, because we don't know what tomorrow holds. And, like, we are only called to having a relationship and loving the Lord, and having a relationship and loving other people. And, like, and you can do that through any season, anything that's happening. And, like, I think you've just done that beautifully. So,
well, thank you. And just one more thing I'll tack on to that is I am the first to admit my relationship with God is not what I want it to be. Okay, it's not what I want it to be. So one more thing is you said, what can you be doing? Is I am so thankful for the years where I did have the time to spend in meditating and memorization of God's word, because everybody listening, that is, you might be in crisis and you might not have the time, the ability, the cognition to be in the word at that time, or even, let's be honest, the emotional capacity.
Yeah.
But your mind is going to go back to the scriptures that you already know and you already meditated on, and God is going to bring those to mind when you need it. So I'm going to admit, has my, devotional life, has my prayer life been the best it's ever been the last 8 months? No, it hasn't. But has my recall of scripture and like the depth of the meaning meant more to me in the last 9 months? Absolutely. So everybody's going to go through a battle, guys. I would say prepare now. Work on your relationship with God now. Meditate on those verses now, because you're going to need them later.
Yeah. And to your point too, like the community that has surrounded you, like that has been so important, that you've had a community that is able to lift you up, but it's not this like facade of like, hey, you're doing great, you're so strong. Like, and there is a place for that in there of just like camaraderie and encouragement, but you've got to have something deeper. Like, and like how, I don't want to like start preaching, but like how beautiful of the Lord to allow us on this side of eternity to still have community of believers, still have that like glimpse of heaven where we're going to be surrounded by believers with the Lord forever. But here on earth, we can have a glimpse of that too.
Yeah.
And like, these are things that I don't think about on a normal day, but when crisis hits, the main thing is the main thing, and you think about it, and like this has caused you to think more than me, but in a way I need to be thinking just as much like, no, what actually matters, God and people, and how I am glorifying God and how I'm just living my life in spite of what's happening in our world.
Yeah.
So take just a second. Tell us what exactly it was that you were diagnosed with, because I still don't know if we hit that. And then tell us from that point to today, just what has your journey been? Where are you at with everything? And then we have a couple more fun things to talk about, like podcast stuff, and then we can wrap up from there. But I definitely want to hear like, where are you at now? What was that season up until today?
Yeah. So it was officially diagnosed after Thanksgiving in November of 22 that it was a grade 4 astrocytoma, which is considered a glioblastoma. They sometimes use those interchangeably, which is a terminal diagnosis. So I was given I don't like to dwell on the stats because I have hope for a lot bigger things. But if you know anything about brain cancers, if you know anything about cancer, you know it's in at least the top 5 most aggressive terminal cancers out there. So my family and I, they are a huge part of this journey with me. And I'm so thankful to bounce off, treatment decisions off of them. And they've done a lot of research as well. So we decided, after I did the initial standard of care treatment, to pursue some additional therapies as well. So I did have, like I said, the surgery, the radiation, the chemo. And then I went to a different clinic in Houston and got on some different medications, an infusion, 2 different types of infusions, 3 different types of chemo, and did that up until recently. So
let me pause you there for a second just to say, like, if you're not in this world, I had no idea. I don't think you know unless you're like in this world, it's been presented to you. But like, you guys, when you were given that diagnosis, it was like, here's what you have. Here's the time you have. Here's our plan, period.
Yes.
And like, I don't know about y'all, but no. Like, so the fact that Katie like was so diligent, and your parents, I've never seen anyone so diligently researching, like, we're actually not happy with this answer. Like, you did the research, you found additional things, you like believed it was the right thing for you, you pursued it. And that might not be right for every single person, but I just really appreciate y'all's perseverance and like not taking that initial answer as like final.
Yeah. Oh, there's
I'm sure that's a whole
struggling
world
with cancer out there. don't let doctors put a timeline on you, okay? Nobody knows how long you're going to live except God alone. So
Amen to that.
don't listen to them, okay? You got to be your own advocate when it comes to the medical system. Man, I feel like I have basically a medical degree at this point, which is not true, but you get my point.
I will make you a certificate. We will throw a party. I have a cap and gown in this closet right
Yes.
here. Oh my God. It's going to happen.
So just be your own advocate when you go through medical decisions because, yeah, I'm very thankful. So we're doing an integrative approach. I'm doing medical, chemos and medications, as well as some things that are outside the box. And even more natural things. We're looking into hyperbaric oxygen chambers. I do a PEMF head coil, which is pulsed electromagnetic energy.
You guys, I have been to her house. There are gadgets everywhere.
Yes.
And I'm like a kid in a candy shop because I'm like, what does this do? And I have like these things on my head and I'm standing on this like surfboard thing that makes my butt jiggle.
Yeah, the vibration plate.
That is so fun.
It moves your lymph system, gets you better oxygen. So does the PEMF.
Yeah.
So a lot of those are good for detoxing. So as the chemo was killing the brain cancer, we had to make sure I was flushing it out of my body with my lymph system. Plus, a lot of those chemos I was on were very harsh. So those were to help my body flush those out. But we also do, infrared saunas and a whole lot of supplements. So I'm taking quite my fill of supplements. But all of that to say is just even diet. We haven't mentioned that yet. My three
changed.
main oncologists said, "Oh, no need to change your diet. Still enjoy your Coke and your Snickers." And
that makes me so mad.
When you go into the chemo labs and there's 10 to 15 people all getting chemo and we're all lined up in chairs, they're all eating potato chips and Coke, and it boggles my mind that
They're
doctors
not
aren't telling cancer patients how to fuel their bodies. So anyway, that's just one more element of, take the best of both worlds. I'm trying to take the best of the medical world, and I would not be here today without that surgery.
Yeah.
And I'm convinced the chemo and the radiation did help.
Yeah.
But they couldn't take me all the way. They basically said, enjoy your life and as you can, enjoy your time. They don't want to try anything more aggressive because it would ruin my life, like my quality of life.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't care about my quality of life.
Yeah.
I'm going to try anything and everything.
Yeah. And this could for different people mean different things.
Absolutely.
So this is not like a black and white thing.
Absolutely.
Or if you have cancer and are eating potato chips today, we're not judging you. Like that. This is not that at all. It's just a mindset of a healthcare professional. Just you want to hear the honest truth from them, and from what we've heard from science and everything else is like what we fuel our bodies with is actually healing.
Yes.
And we need to be aware of what types of foods do different things to help our bodies in the best way.
Exactly.
And medicine is great, and we can have both. We can carry both, and knowing how they work together.
Exactly.
And I think you guys did a perfect like blend of medication and chemo and radiation, all those things that like kill the bad, but also kill the good and like make you feel terrible. But then you also said, how can I fuel my body with good things that then counteracts maybe some of those negative side effects that the medication's doing?
Exactly.
Sorry, I didn't mean to like say that all back to you. This is me processing out loud.
So yeah, just eating more nutritionally is a huge part of my healing plan. So to finish your original question, so I've been getting MRIs, which is the main way to test for my specific type of cancer. And I reached a NED status last month. So that means no evidence of disease. So
let's go!
So there is no active cancer in my brain right now, which is just a huge praise. So we are taking a moment to celebrate that win.
That's insane. Like, pause. You had a grade 4 glioblastoma.
Yes.
And as of today in this moment, your last MRI said, actually, it's not here anymore.
Correct.
Correct. Yeah, God is real and he does miracles. And also he gives us people and community to make wise choices, and like, let's give it up for the healthcare system who have and the people who have created these medications. Let's give it up for the people who have done research on what food is and how it works, and then has taught us how to then use it. Like, it takes, like, this is, and I feel like I texted you this, like, when we had talked through all of this. It's like, this is a miracle, I believe, from God.
Yes.
But also, you have worked freaking hard to do everything you can to beat this. And I just believe that God also honors that. And I'm not saying that if you've worked hard and you're not healing, that God is not honoring you. That's not what I'm saying. I am just making a point to say to Katie Klaiber, she has worked hard, and also God is good. And at this point in time, we are celebrating so hard that it's not there. And we're going to keep praying. We're going to keep working. Y'all, I've tried to offer her desserts probably 15 times in the past 12 hours because I just love food. And she said no every time. And like, that's amazing. Like, I'm so proud of her, and I'm sorry for tempting you when I eat dessert.
It is totally fine.
But like, you're working hard and you're doing the thing, and also God is just being so kind to you and your family. So
yes.
That's incredible. So, okay, well, we could talk about this all day long. And if y'all have questions, reach out to me, reach out to Katie, whatever we can help answer. If we need to do a follow-up episode, let us know. We can do a deep dive. Katie's like, no, one and done.
No, that's fine. There's all sort of cancer resources. And I just, yeah, if anybody's listening, like, I get you guys, you know, and
your journey's not over.
My journey is lifelong thing. Over, but I feel like I have more in common now with people that have cancer than some other people that I know. Meaning, us cancer people, we got to stick together because I found a group of people online that are natural-minded, integrative, and nurse practitioners that also have brain cancer, and this one girl started a Facebook group, and we have this community. And so we're sharing, well, who's your neurosurgeon? Well, how'd your test go? Oh, it's scan day. Well, everybody knows scan days it usually makes for a tough day, a tough week. The anxiety is real. The fear, that's a hard time. So anyway, all I'm saying is find your people. And sometimes that might be finding people who have walked in this step. That's so good. If that means you reaching out to Morgan to get my contact information so I can call you and
I will pass it out like confetti. I will throw it out so hard. You get her number. You get her number. You're cute and single. You get her number.
Any, nice guys listening? So anyway, happy to be a resource. As many were resources to me when I started out on this cancer journey. So
that's beautiful. So obviously, as everyone can imagine, like, you've been this has been your full-time job. So you've not been working.
Yes.
Your job has been incredible to like work with you and everything on all the work comp insurance, everything side. But you've not been working because you've been healing and working on your body and everything. And but one exciting thing is I reached out a couple months ago now and was just like, hey, here's the deal. I'm changing everything in my business with my podcast. And you know how you made that one logo? Yeah, it was great. But I actually want a new logo. Also, I'm starting a new podcast. So now I need that logo. And I might even do a whole new Morgan Amanda rebrand.
Let's just rebrand everything.
Let's just rebrand everything. And that was a cool opportunity. I mean, I reached out and was like, if you want to say no, say no. Like, you don't have to do this. And Katie was like, oh no, like, I'd love to work and do something. So that was a really neat partnership that we had to have. Katie created the Love That For You logo. So great. And a lot of the graphics, I mean, it's so much more than just the logo. It's the graphic, it's everything. And we spent so long on it. I was a pain to work with.
She was not a pain. She had a vision, and we made that vision come true. Did we not?
We did. And it was funny because we started with this for Love That For You. You know, Katie does it in drafts. She does it the professional graphic designer way, where she comes up with some different concepts. I say, okay, love that about that, hate that about that. Let's combine this with this. And you gave me like 15 concepts. You should have known better. That was way too many for my mind to grasp. So we worked on it for a couple months. I feel like it's been a couple months at this point.
Yeah, probably.
And then we had it. I was like 90%, but it just wasn't it. But I couldn't tell what it was about it. And I was like, she was like, is this it? Is this the logo?
I think you had said, this is it. And
did I say this is
I
it? I'm so sorry. It was not it. And I said, Katie, before we just click save on everything, what if we not scratch everything, but we just like go back to the drawing board? And bless your heart, Katie was like, is it something I did? Is it my design? I'm like, no, it's me. It's me. It's 100% me, just not knowing what I want. But she went back to the drawing board, literally and figuratively, and came up with pretty much what you guys see right here and what the logo is now. And I was like, that's it. That's the one. And you crushed it. It's beautiful.
Got a little sprinkles.
It's got sprinkles.
Touch of magic.
I love confetti, but I do feel like everyone's doing confetti. And it was like kind of a thing a year ago. But one thing that I love that's similar to confetti are sprinkles. Like I always get sprinkles on my ice cream, and people don't really go the sprinkle route. So I was like, what if we go the sprinkle route? So
everybody needs little sprinkles in their life.
Right? Here's the scoop. Everyone needs sprinkles. There's my tagline. Just like that. I said it so like snappy, sarcastically. Here's the scoop. So Katie, you crushed it. And if you get 1,000 inquiries for graphic design work after people listen to this episode, sorry, not sorry.
Okay. We'll take it project by project. We're going to keep healing over here and get back to my awesome coworkers who I miss.
Yeah.
Just in case they're listening.
Yeah. Katie did do some second shooting with me, but Katie's also one of my best Disney buds. So we've done Disney a couple times together. We've done a Disney race together. We had a Disney trip planned last April. And that was like right around the time that everything was happening with you being sick, not feeling well, finding out, diagnosis, surgery, everything. So unfortunately, that trip didn't get to happen. But you better believe we spent probably 30 minutes this morning planning out going on a Disney cruise.
Yes.
So we're going to pray and plan as if we're going to do that. Yeah. And I'm like speaking it into existence maybe on this recorded podcast. Maybe 2024. Yeah. I don't even think I have time to go in 2023. Like, life is crazy.
I mean, it's
also it's August. It's already almost 2024 anyway. And it might be 25. Who knows? Life is crazy. But Katie, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for being a kick butt graphic designer. Something exciting that I'm doing on this podcast for Love That For You is I'm ending the podcast asking all of my guests one final question, which simply is, what are you loving right now? So tell us what you're loving right now.
Okay. Well, first, again, thank you for having me. This was fun, and I told you I was going to be nervous, and I was a little bit, but I think it went okay.
You crushed it. You were so good.
Anyway, thank you for having me, and this podcast, I'm so excited to see what happens with it and to hear all the exciting guests.
Yeah.
What am I loving right now? I'll be honest that this weekend, I'm loving this weekend. So Morgan and I went to a football game in Charlotte last night,
FC.
Which was super fun. I've never been to a soccer game like that before. So I loved that. But just in general, as you can imagine, I've kind of been trying to stay away from people for the most part, just with the chemo and the immunity issues. So been doing a lot of... in my downtime, when it's not blazing degrees out, we go take the pontoon out on a lake my parents live near and just take a sunset boat ride with my parents. And I love that.
I love that. I love that you have that relationship with your parents and like watching them be so supportive of you and like optimistic even and just like wonderful caregivers to you has been great. Also, your boat is so fun. You guys might have remembered I went to Katie's parents' house for 4th of July. Yes. So we got to take the boat out and see fireworks. That was super fun.
That was fun.
That boat is so I love the lake. So if you had the choice between a lake house and a beach house, would you go lake house?
I think I would. I think I would go lake house.
If you had the choice between lake house and mountain house, which one would you choose?
Lake house.
Here's the fun, not so fun fact, which is a bummer for the rest of us, but great for Katie. Her parents have a lake house and a mountain house. So like
hopefully soon, yeah.
Yeah. Well, your girl is about to have a new friend with a mountain house. So
it's true. You're welcome anytime, you know that.
Yeah, and Mrs. Klaiber, it is time for you to seriously consider getting a hot tub, because I know I have asked about a hot tub 15,000 times and I know the answer is no.
She's going to love this.
I'm just going to keep asking. You have to have a hot tub. If I need to put down that deposit, I will.
It's on podcast form now, so it's got to happen.
I love it. Katie, you're awesome. I love you.
Love you.
Oh, this is great.